Hello, beautiful Starseeds. It's Alexander Quinn, Starseed Navigating the Light, and it's always such a joy to connect you guys. I love making these videos, and I love all your comments. I read all of them. Today, we're going to be talking about spiritual bypassing and shadow work, and why it is more important than ever to be doing shadow work. Why is it so important? That's what we're going to be talking about in this video today. Why do starseeds get a little bit scared of doing shadow work and they start doing spiritual bypassing? We're going to touch on that as well. Let's deep dive into it after these messages. Hello again. At this moment in time on Earth, we have starseeds waking up everywhere. It's exponential in all countries. We've had all these lockdowns. We've had a situation where we've all had to stay at home. We've had a moment where we've had to slow down, rethink things, go inside. We've had to basically have an awakening in many respects. And we've had a realignment where we've had a lot of people have awakened and said to themselves, is the external world matching with what is needed in the internal world? And where is the friction? What is happening? I want to say to so many of the starseeds and so many of the people watching and my subscribers, and if you're new to this channel, well done for being on Earth at this moment in time, because the energies are so transformative. They are so strong. They are so powerful. So many people are going through so many changes financially, where you're living, the job you're going to do. A lot of you haven't integrated all of the energies yet, in terms of you're having the thoughts, am I going to change my job? Am I going to change this relationship? Am I going to let go of this thing? And you're thinking about it. And a lot of you are gearing up and getting ready to do that and releasing things that don't serve you anymore in the new energies, the strong energies that are so overwhelming coming in. I just really want to give you all a massive virtual hug and say, well done for being on Earth at this moment in time, because it is such a transformative time and you're doing so well. And I really do have the most utmost respect, compassion, and love for all of you for being here at this moment in time and awakening. Now, why shadow work? Why spiritual bypassing? Alexander, why do you keep going on about this stuff all the time? What does it mean? Shadow work, that sounds a bit scary. I don't like the sound of that, because I'm all love and light, and you said you were too. You keep going on about how you're starseed navigating the light. What that's what 5D, what's shadow work, shadows in 5D? Does that make sense? It was Carl Jung, the psychologist, that started coining the phrase back in the day, and then it started creeping into the new age spiritual community quite a lot more. But what's happening on Earth at this moment in time? We've got the big reconstructing years between 2020 and 2025, which also coincides with the Uranus return, so above, so below. So there's a lot going on energetically right now. We've got systems are changing. There's all kinds of things happening. We've got starseeds coming online in their droves. So a lot of people are waking up. We've got light warriors, light workers, starseeds, indigo children. We've got even a few stragglers in the first wave, or most of the second wave have woken up. The third wave, and the crystal children and the rainbow children, they're just coming in wired. They're just coming in straight away, and they know what they're doing. So why shadow work? Well, a lot of starseeds look at shadow work and they think, oh God, that's going to be a bit too much work for me. I don't like that. And that's usually necessitated by spiritual bypassing. So let's start on the spiritual bypassing thing first. So what is this spiritual bypassing? Well, a lot of starseeds basically have gone through a lot of karma, a lot of unfinished business. In previous lives, they've had to work through a lot of dense, very heavy energies. And it has slowed them down. They've been fighting the energy. It's been like pushing a boulder up the hill. Whereas in the new energies, your spirit guides and the energies, the field around you, the universe is now helping you push that boulder up the hill. The energies are now working with you. The wind is in your sails. So what didn't work before might very well likely work this time, but with twice the payoff. This life is the payoff life, when all the lives are coming into fruition, and this is the time to be here on Earth. So you've got a lot of starseeds waking up. They're coming out from under their rock, so to speak, and then they're coming out into the light. But then subconsciously and consciously, they're not wanting to deal with their ancestral traumatic ties. going back in this lifetime and previous lifetimes, unfinished business, karmic issues, and all that kind of stuff, which you can clear up now cosmically due to divine law, all in one in this lifetime. Okay, it can all be cleared up. So why shadow work is so important at this moment in time, especially as critical, is because you have starseeds waking up exponentially in their droves all over the world. And then they are subconsciously aware that there's still all this trauma in this lifetime and previous lifetimes, partly which they're working through in the astral and subconsciously and in dream time. But it must be a blend of bringing more of the subconscious into the conscious. And that's where, the angelics and the ETs play, in a much higher field of consciousness into the fifth dimension, into the fifth density. And that is where, we can't take all of our bags into the fifth density. We must transmute them. We must deal with them. We must take our shadow and our light and combine them into one and become masters of duality, because that's why we came down here. That's what we came here to do. So there's a lot of starseeds were having a non-physical experience, either as a plasmic or an ET consciousness, or in their other home planet, sometimes in a physical vessel, sometimes not, but in a higher density, 5, 6, 7 or above. And then they get down to Earth and they embody a physical vessel in what has been a very low density, but now we're getting more into 4 and 5. 3D timeline is actually shut down completely. And then they get into their physical vessel and they're bombarded with all these emotions. And my God, it's difficult, anger, pain, judgment, low vibrational emotions, which people think, oh my God, I'm feeling all these emotions, and we need to embody them in a physical vessel and have an earthly grounded experience so that we can take both sides of the coin, night and day, and embody our shadow into our light and become masters. And that's how we become grounded. And that's what heals the crystalline grids of the earth. And that's what helps heal the ancestral timelines in the grids of earth, and the threads connected to you as well. So a lot of starseeds are basically coming online, and they're basically aware of love and light, and they want to go back to almost like to spirit, but they're not embodying and grounding enough. So they want to permanently be in love and light. So they're going from one illusion to another. So what's happening is you've got the starseeds coming out of the 3D, which is fantastic. And by the way, the Starseeds are doing an incredible job. I am in awe at the work that the Starseeds are doing at this moment in time. In awe. I mean, I look at what's going on and it's incredible. The ETs and the angelics feel the same. It really, if you're down here on Earth at this moment in time, give yourself a hug. Love yourself. You're doing so well. Honestly, you're doing so well. But the danger is that the spiritual bypassing kicks in. So we're going through one 3D illusion, and the starseeds are coming out the matrix, which is an illusion. But then, because they're not quite adept in the earliest stages of their journey, they're spiritual bypassing because they don't know quite how to start doing the shadow work. So there is this jump from one illusion to another. So permanent 5D love and light perpetuation is another illusion. Because no matter where you go, if you're indoors, if you're outdoors, the sun or artificial light will always cast a shadow. So your shadow, just like Peter Pan, is always inextricably linked to you. No matter where you go, it's always a part of you. You can't run away from it. You can't hide from it. It's always there. So just imagine if you had a reptilian being, for example, who mostly is their shadow self, and then they suddenly did a whole load of light work and integrated all their light into the system. Just imagine how powerful they would be. Well, humans need to do a little bit more shadow work. So you've got these starseeds who are basically going from the 3D illusion of separation and the 3D matrix into just full-on light and love perpetuated all the time, which is kind of illusion as well, because they don't want to have to deal with the negative emotions and non-projection of not putting those on others, and also dealing with that themselves. So they spiritual bypass. So spiritual bypassing can sometimes mean I don't want to deal with my life. I don't want to look at these things because it's been so tough. I've just gone from one really heavy, dark illusion. I want to get out of that. So it's okay to spiritual bypass for a little bit, but it is ego driven. It is your ego keeping you in a box that is all love and light all the time. Your higher self is not saying that. We'll get into that a little bit more as the video goes in. But if you're in permanent love and light all the time, you're actually not expanding. Your ego is keeping you in a box. It's keeping you safe. It's keeping you saying, I'm not going to allow you to grow because we don't want to have to deal with this thing over here. We don't want to look at this thing over here. And we don't want to look at your karmic ancestral issues. And we don't look at the problems that you got in your life. We don't look at your childhood traumas. We're going to keep you in a box. We're going to keep you safe. And it's actually the ego that keeps you in permanent love and light. And it stops you growing. That's why shadow work is so important. So let's look at what the actual meaning of spiritual bypassing is before we get into what shadow work is. Let's have a look. Spiritual bypassing describes a tendency to use spiritual explanations to avoid complex psychological issues, often wielded spiritually as a shield or type of defense mechanism. Rather than working through hard emotions or confronting unresolved issues, people would simply dismiss them with spiritual explanations. While it can be a way to protect the self from harm or to promote harmony between people, it doesn't actually resolve the issue. Instead, it merely glosses over a problem, leaving it to fester without any true resolution. And this is all the ego clicking in once again. So we come out the 3D matrix and all of a sudden the ego goes, oh my god, I'm bare, I'm vulnerable, I don't know what to do, oh my god, help me, I'm at the beginning of this thing, protect, protect, protect. So you start protecting, and all of a sudden all the defenses go up, all the walls go up, and you have unconscious or subconscious triggers which start going out and projecting out into the external world. So the external world is still controlling you as opposed to the other way around, which should be the internal world going out into your external world. So you should be controlling your external world as opposed to the external world controlling you, so that you're not getting all of these triggers. So let's look at what these triggers are and break them down. They are all linked to the ego. I don't recommend anyone take drugs, but if you were to take acid and you go full on and you get an ego death, you don't behave in a way that has all these ego triggers with all these sort of very harsh protection things kicking in. So let's have a look at what are some of these protection mechanisms that come in that might want to stop you doing shadow work, and we'll break each one down a little bit. Anger is a very, very interesting one. Don't forget, there's a lot of ETs, a lot of our cosmos is teeming with life. A lot of them don't have the huge spectrum array of emotions that we have. We're a very, very special species out here in the cosmos. So anger is a very, very important one. A lot of spiritual people think, no, anger is a terrible emotion, and it's very raw, it's very rough, and yes, it is lower down on the spectrum, but if you can embody your anger and turn that into something good, don't feel bad, don't feel negative about being angry about something. If you can tune that into light, it can be a very powerful force. You can turn it into creative force, and when you're creating, you're healing. The next interesting one is believing in your own spiritual superiority. I do apologize. As a way to hide from insecurities. You see Starseeds do this at the beginning of their journey all the time, especially in all these Starseed groups. They're all battling over my truth and your truth, and it's all irrelevant. It doesn't matter. It's all ego. It doesn't matter whose truth is right, because there is no right or wrong on a planet of complete free will. It's an experimental planet, the only one in the galaxy. So as long as you're not hurting yourself or anyone, it doesn't matter whose truth is right. It's actually totally irrelevant, because it doesn't matter unless you're raising your vibration and the vibration of the planet. It doesn't matter which truth it takes to get there. But if you're basically putting up a massive defense mechanism and saying and attacking others in the external because you feel superior, because you haven't embodied yourself as whole, as one, because you're still walking on crutches and having to deal with your ego as a crutch, it's going to be an issue. So some of the most spiritual advanced people, they don't go in these groups and start arguing, because they actually don't even care. They're past that. Their ego is transcended. The higher self is coming in and just observing. It's just got an observational stance. So that, again, that's a real ego one. So don't worry about being right, or is my truth right, or your truth right? As the Arcturians have said often, and Daniel Scranton did an incredible channeling about this. The Arcturians were saying it's irrelevant whose truth is wrong or right, because on a free will planet, it doesn't even matter. You're all navigating your own timelines. You're not having to be part of a collective. You're not having to refer to yourself as us or we. There's still a concept of I and me. So the collective consciousness is not fully embedded yet. So you can go off and have the freedom to believe whatever truth you want and manifest that into your timeline. This is part of the beauty of a free will planet. Those starseeds don't get that. So we don't need to have the ego, a spiritual superiority thing kicking in. And if you haven't done your shadow work and dealt with your traumas, then the ego is not going to be kicking in and pushing that out into the external world. Let's look at the next one. One that starseeds really struggle to grapple with, especially the old soul, not the new souls too much, but this is a real classic. Number 3, believing that traumatic events must serve as a learning experiences, or that there is a silver lining behind every negative experience, i.e. I must live in a world of suffering. This is my soul contract, including being broke and poor and not having any abundance. Abundance is your birthright. So a lot of people believe that they had to come down here and suffer. That is not the case. Creator Source did not bring you down here to suffer. I know it's difficult working out of a 3D box, but that is not your soul contract. A lot of people come down here with false light soul contracts. I must suffer this lifetime, and I must be broken, I must be poor. And they have a lot of self-sabotaging ideas and beliefs which manifest out into their external world, because their external world has made them believe internally that these things are real, and that is another illusion linked to spiritual bypassing. So you can have abundance, you can have all of these things, you can be happy. You don't have to have traumatic events to learn. You don't have to go the hard way. You don't have to take the long road. Actually, as you start to manifest and go up into higher dimensions and higher densities, it's going to get quicker. You're going to take the shorter road. You can learn the quicker way. Everything's going to come to you much more easily when you're tapping into your authenticity, into your truth. It's going to be like working smarter. It's going to be working smarter, working easier. Manifesting is going to come easier. It's going to come to you quicker. So that's a real golden one. I love that one. One of my personal funny ones that I see a lot of people doing, where the ego clicks in and it's all perpetuated love and light that is not balanced, is extremely high, often unobtainable idealisms, which are often projected onto others as judgment. Let's go through some classics. So I'm vegan and you eat red meat. I'm going to look down on you. I meditate for an hour every day. You don't. Shame on you and all this kind of stuff. You've got to act as the ascended masters did, as the ETs are doing, as the Arcturians, as the angelics. They would only offer nurture, love, and compassion, because that's what's really going to help soul growth for others at this moment in time, not judgment. So that's a classic where we've got to unplug the ego again. And if we're passing on judgment and superiority, it means we haven't dealt with our own issues, because those are issues inside of our own selves that we haven't conquered ourselves. A lot of starseeds and souls still think that they're in spiritual form, that they're still connected directly to Source Creator, and that a single thought can manifest anything in the 7th density upwards. We're in a physical vessel. We have to move. We have to still use physicality. We've only just come out of 3D. That's why the next one's very, very important. Pretending that things are fine when they are clearly not, and thinking that people can overcome their problems purely alone through positive thinking. Action is needed. We've got to use physical action to still manifest in the world that we're in. When you're part of a plasma, collective consciousness, like 9D Arcturian councils and Pleiadian collectives in the 9D, pure thought just manifests and it becomes apparent, straight away, almost instantaneously. We're not on those higher timelines and densities yet. So you have to have your thought and then manifest it in the real world through your physical body, and that takes action. So just positive thought alone is very, very good. And yes, and what you think is going to manifest and create the reality, as it creates a ripple out there into the field which is listening to you. But then you have to back it up with physical action. You have to go out into the world and physically create. So if you're in the illusion that things are wrong, If you think things are wrong and you're trying to just back it up with positive thought, and you're not using physical action to resolve that wrongness, then you're still in another illusion. And this is going to be the last one, thinking that you must rise above your emotions, which often causes mechanisms such as denial and repression, which we cover up with drugs and alcohol and pharmaceutical pills and eating. And then we get fat, and then all of a sudden our subconscious is controlling our life, and it's controlling our triggers, and it's controlling our responses, and it's controlling everything that the external world is basically giving to us, as opposed to the other way around. So it's very, very difficult to do our shadow work when we're spiritual bypassing all the time. So let's have a look at the shadow work and what that is all about. You got to remember, as the Pleiadians keep saying all the time, what is the emotion that you are feeling in this now moment, and what lesson is it teaching you? Be in touch with that, because that's when you're going to get in touch with your intuition. That's when your higher self is going to come down, and the ego is going to just gently sit on your shoulder for one side, and you're going to start getting intuition. You're going to start getting a roadmap of where to go, and you're going to be more fluid like water, and that's where you're going to progress in relationships, in your business. If you're an entrepreneur, what to do next, you're going to start getting ideas. Now let's have a look a little bit more at the shadow work. And I want to talk about Sananda, Yeshua, or Jesus, as some people like to call him. He didn't have to be in permanent love and light all the time, because he was grounded and balanced in his light. He wasn't running from the dark, so he didn't have to be in love and light all the time. He could walk in dark places and the light would run from him, but it didn't bother him either way. And he wasn't triggered. So let's have a look at the shadow element and what that means. Let's have a look at that. Shadow work is all about the unconscious mind, which consists of things that we repress and hide from ourselves. Feelings of anger, jealousy, disgust, annoyance, and rage can be distressing, and people might find themselves feeling ashamed or guilty for feeling or thinking such things. You likely have a dark side. Psychology says that everybody does. Those unconscious aspects which are responsible for your impulsive behaviors create self-sabotage. Addiction and codependency. Your shadow self might show up when you're triggered in your relationships and through varying levels of anxiety and depression. So what we're saying is, we want you to create new relationships with some of the unreasonable, unlikable, wounded parts of your psyche. Because as you go into your dark side and play there, you're going to find light there. As you start to transmute it, you're going to find strength. You're going to find new creative substances that you didn't know existed there. And you're going to start transforming the dark parts back into light. But if you go back into the dark, you're going to find more light there, because there's going to be understanding. And I'm going to give you an analogy there shortly. I'm all about this. I'm going to put it into a story so you can understand this in a better way. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. And this is where so many starseeds and souls feel that they don't have free will on a free will planet, because their subconscious is guiding them all the time through the ego, which is not giving you the best perception filters. So a lot of people go through their life making the wrong decisions, and so on and so forth. So it's a real careful balancing act, and it's very, very difficult. We've got the ego here and the higher self here, and we're trying to balance it out. You do have free will, and you can be in control of yourself when you stop spiritual bypassing and you're doing your shadow work. I want to give you my personal conclusion on this, which will help you define a little bit what this all means. You will find your authenticity and then happiness when the external world has stopped ruling your inner self, your subconscious, and your responses to it. This is where your inner world begins to take control, which then influences the external, helping you become a manifester. As you control your environment with a balance, as opposed to then the external controlling you into imbalance, which keeps you either in permanent light or dark. You must have balance in a free will dualistic reality that is still Gaia. These are attributes that take you into 5D when you become a master of your thoughts and manifestations. Now, I was going to give you an analogy that my higher self gave to me to explain how shadow works, but I will save that for the next video. We'll do a shadow work part 2, as this video is getting quite lengthy already, and this is a big topic. There is also a shadow self meditation you can do, so I'm going to chuck that in the next video as well. But the message I really want to get across, besides spiritual bypassing and shadow work, is that you came to Earth and you are working out of a very low density, and you really got to love yourself for doing that. You know, this is a big achievement. And if you don't get it all wrapped up in this lifetime, you will likely get it wrapped up in the next lifetime. So a lot of souls, you know, they keep saying, I'm never going to come back here. You know, I hate it here and all the rest of it. But, you know, a lot of souls, they get back onto the other side and they see the divine plan that they are part of for Gaia. And they do come back. It's much harder to go back to your home planet and your home territories and Arcturus, the boot system and the Arcturus and the Palladiums when you haven't resolved the problems that you created here first. And don't forget, your soul is eternal. There's no time limit on how many times you can keep coming back here doing it. Gaia is beautiful. It is a wonderful place. It's a privilege to be here. And you're doing such a good job. I love you guys, and I will see you in the next video. You are incredible. Know that.